Venom The Last Dance features a whole lot of symbiotes, and unfortunately, most of them are never named. But if we use detective work available online, aka us nerds, we can figure out exactly who each symbiote is. So let's get to it and let's cover every single symbiote that appears in this film and who they are compared to the comics. Venom The Last Dance features a lot of symbiotes. Many, actually most of, who aren't named are causing a lot of confusion. So there's a couple of handy little charts out there. There's a couple of fan-made speculation graphs that are pointing towards what symbiote could be what. So in this video, we're going to cover every single symbiote that appears in that third act. And again, this is based on the best detective work that we can do, since the film doesn't actually focus on explaining each symbiote, and some of them are specifically changed from the comics. Even though they might be named after the comic version, such as Toxin, but Toxin in this, at least Mulligan, who is Toxin, appears as a green half-snake symbiote, whatever that is. Okay, without further ado, let's get into all the symbiotes. Speaking of Toxin, once he breaks out of his containment jail cell, that's the best thing I can call it, he eventually ends up looking like this, glowing a lot more, if you will, and looking a lot less green in nature like he was in that containment cell. And obviously, you know, he was set up at the end of the last film, so there you go. I guess this is Toxin for all intents and purposes. But don't worry, we'll be back to Toxin soon enough. Next up, we got Agony. Now, Agony is pretty easy to identify as she still maintains that whole purple thing that's going on. Now, I won't lie, during the actual film when I watched it, I thought that she was going to be revealed to be the character Scorn. Because if you pay attention in the film, she has one arm that's more or less a problem for her, as the character was struck by lightning and the use of her arm and the motor functions aren't really all there to an extent that they should be. So I figured, oh, when she becomes the purple symbiote, I was like, well, she's gotta be the character of Scorn because of the whole arm connection. But hey, I guess this is Agony, and yeah, I'll go with it because it looks a lot more like Agony from the comics. Next up, we got Lasher, and Lasher actually gets a good amount of screen time and play in this, especially during that third act, and we get a very good understanding of how Lasher moves around, what she does, some of her differences. I mean, I really love that they really focused on the color of each symbiote being distinct, because her green just really shines and radiates in the film. And I thought she was honestly great, and I really hope that maybe, if they make more films, that we could see more of this symbiote, or actually all the symbiotes that might have survived, or technically they can all survive. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing more, and I absolutely adored Lasher. Now, another character that's up for debate is Anti-Venom, maybe. So what we see here is that one of the symbiotes ends up taking on a white pigment and hue, and in the film, it literally looks like Anti-Venom. Now, of course, there was some merchandise that featured a white symbiote, so, you know, whatever happened with that, who really knows? But the symbiote in the film is quite clearly like the inverse of Venom, and I really liked what they did with the character just briefly. I thought she looked cool, but again, there wasn't a whole lot to go by, and the character is never really named. So if this is Anti-Venom or setting up some sort of Anti-Venom, it's of course a departure from the comics, as, well, it has nothing to do with the comics or the far-flung future 2099 and all that. But still, you know, it's a different universe, so just take it for what it is. Next up, we got a weird hybrid, Madness. Yeah, this is a very interesting one, because in the film, we see them, like, get molded together, and they're kind of like two heads acting as one, and the brief scenes we see and everything that they're doing, they're definitely a little bit more in sync with each other, and I thought that they looked cool. Again, the color is very striking. You could tell who was what symbiote while the final battle was going on, even though, again, they don't name them. This is a distinct symbiote. You know, there's two of them merged into one. It's something almost like Cronenberg if you will. If this was a horror film, this would be the stuff of nightmares. So I really thought that this specific symbiote was really cool in how it was utilized. Then we have what people believe is Phage, which, yeah, I could believe it. The resemblance is there. I mean, it's a symbiote, so they all kind of resemble one another. But again, this does seem to be Phage. There's definitely a tint of like yellow and orange, which, makes Phage a little bit more distinct in the comics compared to some of the other characters. So this definitely seems in line. Now, Phage, truth be told, I don't remember, despite seeing the film twice, what happens with Phage. I think it's just one of the quick casualties, quickly killed off type of deals. But hey, again, they appear in this, so there you go. I should also mention that Carnage does briefly appear in this film. It is when KNULL is giving his speech and we're seeing some of the symbiotes and the history. We get a brief glimpse of the Carnage symbiote, just sort of there. But again, it's not featured in the final fight or anything like that. But it's establishing the history of the symbiotes, the ones that were on Earth, what happens with the symbiotes, and of course, it does show us that Carnage is actually dead. Okay, this one's kind of cheating, but we do get the origin of Agent Venom in this film, which I covered in another video. There is a pilot that works for the military called Flash Thompson. When the third act is happening, he gets his legs crushed, and we see him being saved. Obviously, there's symbiote pieces left around, so yeah, we got the origin of Agent Venom, so if they make more, they could use Flash Thompson. Okay, and remember how I said we will get back to Toxin? It's time to get back to Toxin. So at the end of the film, a random symbiote that's glowing red and has like these heat effects looking things coming off of it is briefly seen during the final act. We never really find out who the symbiote is or anything like that, but if we look at the comic and see how Toxin typically is drawn with a lot of red, especially in the top half, again, it's been changed a couple of times and they've played around with what Toxin looks like and his tongue and everything, which is typically green. Here, this might make sense, but again, we just don't know because they play, again, very loose in terms of what they're showing us at the end of the film, and it's just this giant action sequence that just keeps on going and symbiotes are showing up. And of course, we got our final symbiote, the Venom symbiote, and well, the Venom symbiote is officially killed off at the end of the film. Venom is no more, and Eddie Brock no longer has his tag team partner. But the whereabouts of the black, I guess, leftover pieces are still unknown, especially the one in the MCU, which obviously can bring us into a world where that symbiote attaches itself to Spider-Man, and, well, we get the rest of the story. So there it is, everybody. Every single symbiote, at least who most of the people agree that this is probably the correct naming scheme, unless Marvel, or should I say Sony, comes out and states differently, we can probably go with these. A couple of these obviously questionable, but again, it's a multiverse. It's not the comics, so they're changing things around. So it might make sense, especially something like Anti-Venom, for example. Lasher is definitely Lasher, but again, we gotta wait to see if there's ever going to be a confirmation. So there we go. That's every single symbiote in the film. Well, everybody, thank you for watching that video. And as always, you can like, subscribe, share, do whatever you will. Check out the recommended video that's popped up somewhere on the screen. And also, if you would like additional content, including more discussions and more unfiltered content, check out what we offer to the members section, which has new videos going up all the time.